topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Who is January Jones? She is not a young, beautiful, talented actress on Mad Men. She is not an older, gorgeous, exotic dancer from the Johnny Carson show. She is an author, and she wrote Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment, that reached #1 at Amazon.com. She is a reality TV golf personality with World High Stakes Golf televised on HDNet. She is a humorist and winologist expert. She is your featured host today on January Jones Sharing Success Stories. So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and listen to Ms. Jones with her eclectic roster of guests as you learn life's lessons. These stories plus sharing equals success. Welcome, and remember, beware, because you are entering the no whining world of January Jones.
Hello, everyone. I'm January Jones, and I'd like to welcome you to our podcast. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm looking forward to this show. I really am. I'm happy to announce also, as most of you I hope know, I've created a new brand, and it's called Glitter Granny Gifts. And I'm now an affiliate associate at Amazon. And I can share with all you seniors who love to shop, go to my website. I've got all sorts of things there. You know, as you can see, hats, canes, glitter drinks, you name it, we've got it. My assistant, Golden Doodle, she's not here today. She went to the dog park. So remember, all you grannies out there, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got bling. Now get ready, and we're so excited to have a guest who's been on our show before. Actually, before we went on the air, we were just talking about it. And he was first on my show 12 years ago. And it's so hard to believe the time has gone by and so much has happened to both of us along the way. Good things too. So now for my listeners, let me ask you a question. Did you grow up in a big family? Well, maybe some of you did. I didn't, but I always wished I had. And here's the follow-up question. Was it a large Catholic family? Or, Catholic or Mormon? The answer is going to be yes. So tell me, along the way, was there any alcohol addiction in your family? Was it part of your everyday life? I think for a lot of us it was. And also, did you feel abused as a child? Did you realize it was happening? Now, are you ready to meet someone who can share his personal story of abuse and his success story with us? Would you like to know how he did it? And more importantly, why? Now, let me ask you, have you ever heard of a book called A Fighting Chance? A 40-year journey from my birth to my brother's death. That's a pretty amazing topic. If you can answer yes, or maybe to any of these questions I've asked, then I'm thrilled to welcome you to the right place. You are January Jones sharing senior success stories today. My guest is, before we do that, rest, relax, go get some wine, get some cheese and crackers so you can join me in the no wine zone. Now, let me tell you about my guest today. He is an old friend, and I'm happy to have him back. He is a best-selling and award-winning author, speaker, educator, TV host who has been featured on over 100 TV and radio shows, as well as many of the top podcasts. He's been many times, and I originally thought it was 10 years, but now we realize it's 12 years. It's my pleasure to welcome back to our show again, Daniel Blanchard.
Hey, January, how are you?
I'm wonderful, and you are so multi-talented, and this book that you've written is incredible. I had texted you before that I read it, and I literally could not put it down. I read it like within a day and a half. It was so intriguing to me because I grew up in a what I considered an alcoholic household. But when I read your book, I felt like I had grown up in Disneyland.
It's amazing you should mention that.
Yeah,
I remember.
Oh, I was taking it to a whole different level.
Yes. I remember I was on a book author tour / little speaking tour, and one of the guys I got paired up with, who went on to become pretty successful. He gave this speech about how, his dad was drinking beers at like one of the big baseball games, Yankees or whatever, Yankees baseball games. And then his dad was, maybe getting drunk during the baseball games. Mm-hmm. And then he drove him home. And I was just like, okay, so I was waiting for the bad part to come. And in his story, that kind of was the bad part. I mean, for everybody, it's relative. I mean, your story is your story. But I was like, oh, that was the bad part. That your dad was drinking during baseball games, maybe instead of having all of his attention on you, and maybe he was driving you home. So, I mean, we all have different levels of what our story is. But I remember just shaking my head going, that's it? I would have been so happy if that was it, if that was my story.
Well, that's why your book was so shocking and revealing to me, because I was in a home with alcohol and addiction and all that, but it was not physical. And we were never physically endangered. But in your book, that's how it starts out. And I mean, you were just little bitty guys, and this kind of thing was happening to you. Oh my gosh, that's an amazing thing that you've been able to survive so well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I can't remember anything except for violence from my youngest age. I mean, my mother told me that my father was smacking around my brother like before 6 months old. Can you imagine a grown man smacking around what is that? Is that 5 months, 4 months? I mean, what is that? Smacking around a baby at that age? Mm-hmm. So I can't remember anything except for violence. As long back as far as I can remember. And I got to tell you, I mean, some people like, did you ever get therapy? And I was like, no. And they're like, well, maybe you should. And I was like, well, why? I seem to be adjusting just fine, but maybe I'm wrong, because every now and then, like my wife will say something to me and I'll look at her and I'll be like, well, that was like kind of mean, And my wife was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't mean it like that. She's like, it's the way you're interpreting it. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I still got some issues, of just being too sensitive, too hyper alert to like anger and danger and all that. Maybe it's still there. Well, because every now and then somebody says something and I got to stop and look at them. Like, I mean, like, boy, that was kind of like almost like mean, but maybe it's not. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's subliminal for all of us. And you came from a family of 6, Catholic family. I said early Catholics and Mormons, they all had big families. I know in your book, your one brother has passed. Are the other 4 still alive and well and doing well? I hope.
Well, I had a big brother and a younger brother. And my younger brother passed away from SIDS. Oh. And I've got a really sad story about that. I mean, I don't remember much of it, but I got a really sad story about when my mother was pregnant with my little sister after my little brother passed away, that I was crying and saying, don't have a baby, don't have a baby. I didn't take good enough care of the last one, and the last one died because I didn't take good enough care of it. And my mother's like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, my mother said I'd be rocking the little baby at night trying to get it to go to sleep so my dad wouldn't hit it for crying.
Okay, so How
Crazy.
how old were you when this took place that you could remember that so well?
I don't remember that, which is the sad part.
Oh.
Because I blocked out a lot of memories of my youth. And
Mhm.
it took a lot of digging and a lot of help of asking people questions for me to be able to write this memoir because I blocked out a lot. And when those memories came back, like my mother told me about those memories of me rocking my little brother. So I was probably about 2 years older than him when I was, because we were a big Catholic Irish family. My mom Irish, my dad French. But it was just one baby after another, after another, after another, after another. So, it was me, and then my sister, and then my little brother Neil. So I was probably like 2 years old, 2.5 years old or whatever when I was rocking him, trying to
Uh-huh.
get him to be quiet so my dad wouldn't hit him.
Right.
And I don't even remember that. I don't remember crying to my mom. My mom told me this. That's how I know this story.
Mhm.
I don't remember crying to my mom, don't have another baby because I killed the last one by not taking good enough care of it or protecting it enough or whatever it was that I
Oh,
was saying, which is so sad.
yeah.
But again, my mother had to tell me that
Yeah.
story.
And I'm sure now I noticed that you wrote this book after both your parents have passed, which I think is pretty good thing to do because I can't imagine. Well, actually, I have done some writing about my father, and that's a difficult thing to do, isn't it?
Oh, it's extremely difficult. And that was one of the reasons when my wife, like 10 years, was saying, you need to write this book. You need to write your memoir.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, 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 no. Because even though I was a grown man, my big brother, was still alive when my wife was asking me whatnot. But when he dies, it's not too much longer after he dies than my father dies.
Mhm.
And then I write the story. But like I was saying, even though I was a grown man, and I was like stronger and faster, and I was a two-time junior state champ wrestler, junior Olympian wrestler. So obviously there was nothing my father could do to me at that age to
Yeah.
physically beat me up. He couldn't physically beat me up, but it just the whole thing of just making my dad mad gave me like the EBGBs and like the scare. I was like scared, very, very worried about making, at the least of making my dad angry, even though physically there was nothing he could do anymore.
Oh,
But every time he was around, I'd get the EBGBs, like I was still like that scared little boy, and it was sad, so sad.
oh, I know. And so many people are afraid to talk about it, and so many people can't talk about it. So I'm very happy you and I can sit here and talk about it and maybe help other people who are listening. We're going to take a break now, and this next break is for anyone who likes being noticed.
Welcome to Glitter Granny Gifts to Give or to Get. Hosted by January Jones, aka Glitter Granny, and her Golden Doodle Ginger Ale. If you're a granny who wants to glitter and glow, it's time to join us for a sparkling shopping experience that will be unique and so very special. Whenever you need a unique and spectacular gift, then Granny will help you find it. Along with gifts for family, friends, and holidays, there are even glitter gifts for coworkers, in-laws, doctors, and you can even find something for your friend who has everything. If you need a really good gag gift, you'll find it here. Hats, canes, shoes, accessories. When it comes to glitter accessories, Granny and Ginger Ale are on board with everything you can imagine, and then some more. The favorites are at her website, and remember, she is adding to this list almost every day with lots of fun gifts to give or to get. Granny has created a website that is glamorous and glows with glitter products to wear or to use every day. As she says, if it ain't got bling, it doesn't mean a thing. Now let me tell you about her glitter hat collection. She actually has too many to count. Her collections are must-have accessories for any glitter granny who enjoys getting attention everywhere she goes. Remember, if people are going to stare at you, make it worthwhile for them. And canes? Everyone will ask you, where did you get it? Can I get one too? Now, just go to glittergranny.com and check it out.
Welcome back with my guest today, Dan Blanchard. See, Dan, that's what happens when you get to be 80 years old and you're looking for something to do, and all of a sudden you're working with Amazon, and they've been wonderful. Before we begin, let's share your contact information for any listeners. Let's get this right out there so they can follow you and get your books.
All right, that's cool. Anybody who just Googles Dan Blanchard, author, speaker, I'm going to pop up everywhere. And my website is granddaddysecrets.com. And, I got a danblanchard.net as well. But if you go on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, which is X now, Instagram, YouTube, I got a YouTube channel, obviously Amazon. I got the Amazon 42 books now on Amazon. I definitely make sure you check out my TEDx talk. You know what I'm saying? So I'm all over the place. You're going to be able to find me very easily.
42 books. Well, I had a feeling, because I was kind of browsing around and I was kind of checking up on you. I was seeing what you've been up to. And you've been as very busy as have I. How long did you produce these books so quickly? My question, I'm on book number 7. Where do you find the time? Because I know you have a lovely wife and you have 5 children. I only had 4. And you're a very busy guy. So when do you write? In the middle of the night?
Actually, no, but sort of. For 10 years, a decade, I set my alarm clock for 4 a.m. And I would write 7 days a week, 365 days a year for a decade.
Wow.
Never missed a day. And I did that for a decade, from 4 to 5. And then at 5, I would go to the gym. 6 o'clock, I would be getting ready to hit the road to go to work as a high school teacher. I got to be in around 7. So that's pretty much. And then sometimes I wrote during my lunch breaks, obviously during vacations, additional writing during vacations, summer breaks, sometimes at night. But I got to admit, 10 o'clock's come rolling around. I tend to work really hard. I have multiple jobs. I got 5 kids. So usually around 9-ish, me and my wife sit down for the first time of the day to watch a TV show. Wow. And now it's around 10-ish. And I got to tell you, 10 something, I need to go to bed because my alarm clock's set for 4 a.m. again. Now it's a little bit different. My alarm clock is, I found myself so sleep deprived that I set my alarm clock for 5 a.m. and I start working at 5 a.m. and then go to the gym, and I just do everything in a shorter chunk. But find time whenever you can.
Wait till you get to be 80, and it seems like all we do is go to doctor's appointments or take naps. That's kind of our day. And
Yes.
share with my listeners that you share also about your dear brother Chris, who's passed, had a difficult time in school because of the environment. This affected your whole life, the environment you came from. Could you share a little bit about the problems in school you had? And we'll end with the fact that you have now 7 degrees, which is so impressive.
Yeah, very. I had a lot of gaps. The people that kind of know me now are just amazed with what I was able to accomplish. But even now, I'm a school teacher, and I had a student teacher who was part of the 1 percenters, was a big time attorney who wants to switch careers and come into teaching. Way, way smarter than me. He read a couple of my books, spent some time with me, and he was like, "It's just so impressive." But I'm going to get to my childhood in a second. He goes, "It's so impressive." He goes, "But every now and then, Dan, I notice you have gaps in your education." And he goes, "Which I'm not surprised." He goes, "You have gaps in what you know." And I'm like, he's like, "I'm not surprised considering your childhood." So now going to my childhood, I grew up in poverty. I was born in the north end of Hartford. We're the only white family in our neighborhood, surrounded by violence in the streets. Come home where it's supposed to be safe. No violence there. You know what I'm saying? So nothing but trauma. I went through my youth, and for most people that don't know this, but I was born deaf and mute, so I was way behind with that as well. Even today, sometimes people talk to me and I'm like, well, what did you say? Like I got this auditory processing disorder that has never been diagnosed. So I've just got obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And the people in the modern era are familiar with a thing, I think it's called ACEs, it's adverse childhood experiences. And if you got like 3 or 4 of those, I mean, you're probably running for trouble. You got like 4 or 5 of them, chances are there's a very good chance you could be going to jail. You got like 5 or 6 of them, there's very good chance you could be on death row for like murder, right?
Well,
I got 7.
For sure. And, unlike you, I escaped big problems because I lived with, I had 2 grandmothers. I lived with one or the other until I was 12. So I did have support, but you didn't have support. And tell us how old you did escape, but you were older, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while. Obviously, I was so tiny for my age. I remember 8th grade, high school, the summer before high school, I was 105 pounds. I was like this little, real tiny boy, like 5'3", 105 pounds. And I was already developing into sort of like a football star, wrestling star already because of like 8th grade. I had stellar performances in football and wrestling. And this is what saved me. I was so tiny, so afraid, constantly abused, very terrible in education. I had trouble like reading well, couldn't write to save my life. Schools, I was getting like C's, didn't really know much at all. And when I was in high school, I was getting C's. You had to get a C average. So sometimes I'd get like a D and sometimes I'd get maybe a B, but it would all come out to like a C average. So just so I could play sports, just so I could play sports. I mean, I was so ill-equipped, I just wasn't like ready. I wasn't prepared. But I had wrestling and football saved me.
Oh my gosh. Saved me. And I love the way you shared in your book how your sports experience connected you with some pretty amazing men who kind of helped you, mentored you. And it's so important if you're older and you see this situation to become a mentor, which I know Dan has done. And tell us a little bit about the mentors in your life and how they kind of pointed you in a different direction.
Well, it's very interesting. In my early years, I didn't have any mentors. And I always tell people, my mentors were actually your very non-traditional mentors. My mentors were my sports heroes, like Dr. J in basketball, Roger Staubach in football, Terry Bradshaw in football, wrestling. I didn't really have any yet because I just followed my brother's footsteps in the wrestling. But once I got into, sports, then they became my coaches. My mentors were my coaches because I was still terrible in the classroom. And I just really wasn't connecting that well with the teachers. But my sports coaches were my mentors. And then later on, I found myself, I went to the Army and I became a football coach and a wrestling coach, went back to college. So then at this point, I'm becoming my mentors as I'm becoming like the football coach mentor, the wrestling coach mentor. And I become the school teacher mentor for other kids as I'm now going through college, and a lot of my college professors are becoming my mentors, which is, because my high school teachers, I just didn't really connect with them because, not their fault, my fault. I wasn't connecting with them, but I was connecting with my college professors because now I knew I wanted to be a school teacher and a wrestling coach and football coach. So now I'm connecting with them, but at the same time, I'm becoming a mentor to the youth, through coaching football, through coaching wrestling, through teaching school. I'm becoming a mentor to youth. And eventually this whole life coaching sort of thing kind of comes into my life. So I become like a mentor over there as well. So it was awesome how it came full circle for a boy that looked like he was never going to go anywhere.
and the exciting part of the whole story for me is where you went. And I remember you came on my show many years ago with your first book, Granddaddy's Secrets, and it was so exciting. And you like myself, you learned how to promote and what you need to do. But as for teaching, have you taught all the way through? How long have you been teaching?
Yeah, I've been teaching 30 years now. You know, could you imagine that? 1994. 1994, wow. I got a job at St. Thomas More, which was an international prep high school in Connecticut. It was for, like, let's say the rich, elite, powerful parents who were so busy that they weren't really able to be there for their children. And their children were like a little angry and maybe not doing well in school because they really didn't, they might have a nanny, but they didn't really have their parents in their life all the time because their parents were like off saving the world or whatever it was that they were doing, right? Some were rock stars, some were rocket scientists, whatnot, but they were like very successful people that just, they weren't able to be there for their children. So they went to like prep schools, boarding schools, prep schools. So that was my first job, you know, and you think, oh, well, this kid comes from like a rich, elite, powerful family. But they too needed help. They were like underachieving, maybe angry at the world, you know, undisciplined, and they needed help. And I was there. I was the guy that helped them. And then the following year, I jumped on the complete opposite spectrum when I went to Nutchuck Hospital for students that came from very poor, broken families. You know, so the complete opposite spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And those kids were special ed kids that needed help. And I was there for them. And then in 1996, I went to New Britain, where I've been for the last 28 years, you know, poor, inner city, very large schools. And these kids need my help and they need people like me in their lives. And here I am now for the last 28 years, basically, and going on 30 years of doing this very, very difficult job.
I'm so proud of you. You know, 30 years ago, I wrote my first book, so I know how long that takes. And the other thing I wanted to share is when you became Teacher of the Year in Connecticut, didn't you?
Well, no, they were doing it. This was an interesting thing. It was Teacher of the. It was like the I guess you said the Teacher Award, but this one was different and weird. Like they actually broke it down to like months. There was. Which was very interesting. So I got like a Teacher of the Month. Which was, and then another time I got like Apple. I guess it was from the Apple Computer Company. I got like Apple Teacher Award, and I forget if that was the year or month. I forget which one that was, but Apple gave me like a Teacher Award.
Well, you know, like all grandmothers, I do exaggerate.
Yeah, I mean. But it's interesting because there's a lot of different awards out there, so you never know which one you could win.
Well, I'm proud of you, no matter what. Now, if you're a whiner or you know someone, this next one is for you.
Introducing Living and Dying Without Whining, a memoir. 80 years of magical moments, written by January Jones. Ms. Jones shares her most exciting and magical moments. Patriotic moments. Landing on aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson. Staying overnight, then catapulting off. Revealing moments. Working for the CIA for 5 years. Thrilling and comforting moments. Meeting Charles Lindbergh and Neil Armstrong together. Sassy moments. Swinging 60s and the 70s. The age of Aquarius. Exciting moments. As a TV contestant on Joker's Wild and Family Feud. Reality moments. Playing in the World Series of Golf on reality TV. Career moments. As a stewardess for Eastern Airlines. Touching moments. with meeting a half-brother she never knew about, with many, many more magical moments, living and dying without whining. A memoir, 80 years of magical moments, written by January Jones. Available at Amazon.com and Audible.com.
Okay, Daniel, I've been busy too.
Yeah, no doubt. You've done some amazing things.
Oh yeah. I try to share things that most people haven't done. So that's why I picked out those things. But the thing I'm proud of, I have a 54-year marriage. So how long have you been married?
Oh my gosh. I got married in 1998.
Okay. Quite a while. Yeah, we're talking 26 years. Yeah, you've got a ways to go.
Yes. But it's, I look around at a lot of my old, let's say, high school classmates, and a lot of them are divorced. So it's not easy to be married a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, or 5 decades like you. It's not, it's an accomplishment.
Well, let's see, mine was easier because my husband was an airline pilot, so he was gone half of the time. And so
you had your room.
It was always nice to see him come back, and I'd say, the kids, they're yours now. Take them.
Mm-hmm.
Go
ahead.
I wrote in my memoir, turning points. I wrote about the turning points in my life, and I felt in your life when you went in the Army service that was a big step, wasn't it?
It sure was. Well, I'm so thankful for the Army, and I know different people think different things about the military, but I am just so thankful for what the military did for me, and so thankful what the military can do for, like, let's say, my students. But backing up, I think in some ways I was almost bred or groomed for the military, not on purpose or anybody's doing, but it just kind of happened. I was like 9 years old, 9 years old, and I was delivering newspapers before school, my older brother and sister. By the time I was 10, I had my own paper route where I was waking up at 5 in the morning at 10 years old. And I did that all through middle school, the 4 years of middle school. I did it through the 4 years of high school, pretty much all the way through the 80s. I was getting up at 5 in the morning to go deliver those newspapers, and they had to be delivered. Rain, snow, sleet, freezing weather. I'm not feeling good. I got injured in football or wrestling. My knee's the size of a softball. It doesn't matter. You got to go deliver those newspapers. So that taught me and trained me and prepared me for the military life. And then, of course, football helped. I think wrestling really helped.
Oh, yeah.
Train me for the military. And then when I got in the military, and we're waking up at like 3:30 a.m. every single day. It was early. It was tired, but I was kind of used to it. You know what I'm saying? And then we were doing that PT, that morning PT. We were doing like push-ups and leg raises and all that stuff to failure over and over and over again. That was like wrestling practice. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of football, but like wrestling practice. So I was like, when my brothers in green were puking, I was like going on, and I just kept going and kept going. And it was kind of funny because when I got back to civilian life, somebody said, what was it like? And I used to tell my buddies who I wrestled with, I said, well, you remember like wrestling practice? And they're like, yeah. I go, it was sort of like an easy wrestling practice for like 16 hours a day. I'm like, Dan Gable, one of the greatest wrestlers ever, college Olympic wrestlers ever, said that once you've wrestled, everything else is easy. So to me, basic training, the military, all those running, push-ups, everything. We had the road marches were, oh my God, that was torturous. The forced road marches, it was torturous. But then again, I was like, once you've wrestled, everything else is easier, right? So the military to me was like an easy 16-hour wrestling practice. Is basically what the military was. So I was kind of like indirectly, like groomed for the military. And I loved the military. I thought the military was awesome. And then I took that, January. I took all that stuff and applied it to everything that came after the military. Teaching, grad school, becoming a husband, coaching, obviously, becoming a father. None of that stuff is easy. Those are long, not easy days, but the military, I'm like, hey, I'm used to. I have these habits from the military, so I can get A's in college and degrees in college. I can go the extra mile in my marriage, go the extra mile as a father, go the extra mile as a teacher. I could do all these things because the military basically laid the road of those success habits.
I hope that all the other grannies out there listening, and moms, dads, granddaddies, all of you, I hope you use this opportunity to share Daniel's story, share his books. If you know someone who is struggling and you're kind of in the background, not wanting to get too involved, but you do want to help, of course you want to help, go to Amazon. He's got 42 books for you. And if your special child, grandchild needs a mentor, or if they need an example, this is why I've invited Daniel back on the show. And his story is amazing with the wrestling, the football, the service. Then you just go to school, like unbelievable.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, I mean, people get shocked when they say, well, hold on, wait a second, time out. Did you say that you completed 14 years of college and earned 7 degrees? And I'm like, yeah. And it wasn't that hard. I mean, but coming from like a C student, somebody who was just barely holding on in high school to be able to play football and wrestle, it was like, well, how? Again, the success habits. Get up early, you know what I'm saying? Work hard. Use every single minute of the day. Do it during your lunch breaks. Do it at night. Do it on weekends. Do it on holidays. Never take a day off. Do it on Sundays. You know what I'm saying? When I was doing all of, sort of like the military, right? You just keep going and keep busy and keep moving towards your goal and keep doing the work. Let me repeat that. Keep doing the work. As long as you keep doing the work, next thing you know, you've just read another chapter. You've just written another paper, right? You just keep doing the work. And for me, it wasn't that hard. As long as I just kept doing the work. Again, it comes from the military. Just keep doing the work. Next thing you know, 14 years of college are down and 7 degrees are down. And again, okay, write a book. Same thing. Keep doing the work. Never take a day off. Keep doing the work. And next, second book's down, third book's down, 10th book's down, 42nd book is done.
Oh, for sure. And while I was reading your book, I kind of felt that I want you to share this. I felt that Teresa kind of stepped up to the plate for you. Now, she was your oldest sister or your youngest sister?
Yep. Older sister. Thank God we had Teresa.
Yeah.
Because I mean, she really stepped up, and she had to step up at a very, very young age. Because my brother was having trouble hearing, and he was kind of learning a little bit to read lips, and he would constantly look over at Teresa, his younger sister, for cues on what to do to hopefully not be smacked around by his father, our father. Whatnot. So Teresa was always kind of there in the background, trying to cue my brother on what to do to keep from getting hit. And she was, there for me too. I was born deaf and mute. And I got to admit, after a while, my parents were like, oh, well, he's just the mentally retarded one. So it kind of made less sense for my father to be beating the heck out of me all the time, because I was the mentally retarded child. I got smacked around, half the time. You know what I'm saying? But my brother got smacked around all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, so my sister was there trying to save the both of us without her getting smacked around. She's trying to discreetly in the background kind of cueing us on what to do. And when my father wasn't there, she'd be kind of watching over all of us and trying to help us get things done so my father wouldn't smack us around, which is a daily basis of him smacking us around. And I got to tell this, many people don't know this, but my father was never home. He would go off to work, and after work, he'd go to the bar, and he'd come home 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, drunk and angry, and that's when he'd wake you up and smack you around one night. So he did that all the time. But most people don't know this. When we were young, my mother, who took care of the house, she fell, and like broke her ankle or leg or something like that. And
Uh-huh.
like my sister, she
Oh,
was little. I mean, like kindergarten or whatever it was. And she was like cooking the family's dinners and doing stuff like that because my mother was laying in bed with like, and plus my mom was always pregnant and always sick. And then,
oh,
I had a broken bone. My father would smack her around, break her bones,
wow.
not just to fall. So my sister was like many times was cooking the family dinner and taking care of the family. And she
Right.
was just a little girl. And
Mhm.
many people don't know that about her, but
Mm.
she was amazing.
Yeah. In the book, you speculate that perhaps your father, he was gone so much, you thought maybe he had a second family and you never found out for sure. But I found out when I was 77 that I had a younger brother who was 75. And we met through ancestry.com. We had the same father, but we had different mothers. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you probably have siblings you don't even know about.
Yeah, they're definitely like my sisters found pictures
Oh,
of my father with what looked
uh-huh.
like another family is
Wow.
what it looked like. And my older sister said one of the little girls looked exactly like my younger sister, Allie.
Mhm, mhm.
So my older sister, Teresa, was like, I'm telling you, he's got another family. And I
Mhm.
was always like, nah, 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 no, that can't be true. That can't be happening. He can't. So I was always like denying it. But my
Oh,
sister Teresa always believed he had another family because she saw pictures. And when my father died, and I was going through, let's back up, before he was dead and he was in the hospital, and I was going through his dresser to bring in some clothes to the hospital,
mhm.
I found some pictures.
All right.
And
Okay.
I was looking at those pictures and I was like, wow. And of course, I mean, some of the pictures I found, he was with other women and this and that. So I was just like, oh man,
You
I think
know,
it might be true.
oh, it's amazing with this DNA situation now, because when I first met my brother, he came off an airplane and I looked at him and it was like, oh my gosh, it's my father. And
Yeah.
when I hugged him, I said, Ron, we don't have to ever do any more DNA. I just
Yeah.
do, and So that, is an interesting thing. A lot of people are finding out. And I
Yeah.
always tell them to
I got to
look at
tell you, January, it's funny that we're talking about this right now because
that.
last night my wife was flipping through like her phone and she found something in the news about a woman named Blanchard that was a couple years younger than me that was
Uh-huh,
in the news for very like controversial stuff. And
uh-huh.
my wife said to me just last night, my wife said to me, hey, are you sure this woman isn't your little sister? Because I came from a dysfunctional family. So it would only, I guess it would make sense that if there was another family out there, that one might be dysfunctional too.
Yeah.
Saying so like last night I'm laughing, I'm going, nah, I doubt it. But then I'm kind of looking at it, I'm going, who knows? Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think a lot of us are getting surprises, and mine was a wonderful surprise. When you reflect back on the whole situation, you were so extremely successful. And I know you give this situation quite a bit of credit, but the part where you work so hard, I think you share that with our listeners, what it entailed. I mean, getting up so early and doing all those things. That was amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of success in life.
Hmm.
And I gotta say, I mean, when I was young, there was like an anger in me
Oh,
that I
yeah.
that I funneled it toward like activity and just in doing, being a doer and
Hmm.
working toward success. Right.
Hmm.
So that definitely helped me. One of the things that I thought about a bunch of times was what would my dad do in this situation? Okay, do the opposite. Right. So but I think it worked. Right. And,
You
and,
know,
and, and, and one of the things that was the opposite was
hmm.
when I picked my wife
Oh,
and got the opportunity to create the family I deserved
hmm.
instead of being born into
Yeah,
a violent dysfunctional family because of my father, not because of my siblings, but because
no,
of my father. Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was able to always treat my wife the right way,
Mhm.
treat my kids the right way. And, and my wife wanted to be a stay-home mom, which is
Mhm.
a really, really hard job,
Mhm.
especially when you got 5 kids, and especially in these days when you kind of need 2 incomes and we're
Yeah.
living on 1 income. I mean,
Right.
that's hard. It's hard when my wife can't go to the grocery store.
Oh.
It's like she's got to wait another week, stuff like that. But my wife is always there. My wife is
Mm.
always there for us, always taking care of the kids, driving them to school, making sure they're okay, checking on me, making sure I'm okay.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, I'm doing everything I can, everything I can to be a good husband, a good father, and create the family that I deserve, that my wife deserves, that my kids deserve. The one that I wasn't born into because of
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
father had the opposite trickle down leadership, the leadership from the top down. It matters. You know what
Oh,
I'm
for
saying?
sure.
And if you're tearing the place up, I'm saying, versus what I do, making sure everything's good and comfortable. And I'm trying to do like the right life lessons. And to this day, I got a very happy wife, and I got 5 awesome kids.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome kids. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So lucky. I work
Oh,
hard for it, but I'm so lucky.
yeah. You've worked very hard. And I think that your reward, I said, is you get grandchildren because you don't kill your children. So I know you're going to have a lot of wonderful grandchildren. And you're going to
Mhm.
be a wise example, the wise old man, a great example. And it's so incredible what you've set the bar so high. I know you're coaching your son in wrestling. Are the other kids in sports too?
I've been so lucky because I spent, oh gosh, maybe like 14 years coaching other people's kids.
Oh, well, just a minute, sweetie. I just realized we're done.
Oh, okay.
So, can you come back?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll have you back, and I won't wait 12 years or 8 years. You'll be back soon. Everyone, thank you for joining us, and thank you for letting me share Daniel Blanchard with you. And signing off is January Jones, your glitter granny. Go to glittergranny.com, and I'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
We want to thank you for listening to January Jones Sharing Success Stories. Always remember Ms. Jones' personal mantra, if you can think it, you can do it. That's what all of our guests have done with their lives, and so can you. You are the ultimate success coach in your own life. All you need to do will be to start sharing your own story with your family and friends. We hope that our guest stories will encourage you to explore an equation in your future that will combine your creativity plus connecting with others will enable you to be successful too. Always remember, your passion plus your purpose will equal prosperity as you explore the wonderful world of January Jones.